Why is it so hard for us to be brief and to the point when we talk? Today I'm talking about brief, making a bigger impact by saying less, by Joseph McCormack. You can hardly open up an email or go into a meeting without the guarantee of a long-winded, unfocused and completely forgettable fresh batch of information. Actually, there are a lot of reasons why we struggle to be succinct in our communication. This animated summary goes through all of the suggestions in this book and then explains how you can counter each one so that you're known as the sharpest, most concise person in the office. And once that happens, people won't run away from you when they see you coming or leave your email unanswered. They will be much more likely to want to know what you have to say. Number 1. Be heard in today's distracting world by making your points quickly. Every day we're swamped by information, distracted by innumerable people and things competing for our attention. In this fast-paced, information-centric world, time has become a valuable commodity. Those who can't grab attention and make their point quickly are easily ignored. So, why is it so hard to get people's attention? Well, because we simply don't have the mental capacity to take in all the information we encounter. We're confronted today with so much data that it's impossible to make sense of it all. For example, according to the software developer Atlassian, the average professional receives 304 emails per week. You may get more, I do. Not just that, the venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Bayer's annual internet trends found that people check their phones 150 times per day. That means the average worker gets interrupted about every 8 minutes by their phone alone. Because of these modern diversions, we struggle to take in the rest of the information with which we're presented. It's no surprise that research has shown that the average attention span has dropped from 12 seconds to 8, even over the past 5 years. As a result, everyone expects things faster. To get your ideas across in this information overload, you'll need to hold your attention's focus, and that means making your point quickly. But how? By speaking in attention-grabbing headlines. For instance, instead of slowly building information in a presentation, announce your findings right away. Headlines are effective because business people can become impatient when speakers aren't straightforward. For example, picture 300 executives at a non-profit fundraiser on a Wednesday night. The keynote speaker goes 30 minutes over time, and by the time she or he is done, the room is half empty. In this way, the inability to communicate quickly could cost you not just people and money, but also respect and your reputation. But if successful people want everything to be concise and have no tolerance for long-winded explanation, then why is it so difficult for us to get to the point? Why do we take so long and use so many words? Number 2, tackle the unconscious obstacles to brevity. You've heard people say far too many times, "This will only take a minute," for them only to speak for half an hour. Why is it so hard for us to stick to our word on this? It's not just the love of hearing our own voices that makes it hard to be brief. The difficulty stems from subconscious reasons like our confidence and comfort level. For instance, if someone considers themselves an expert on a topic, they can get stuck on technicalities and over-detailed explanations. But what use is expertise if you can't offer a clear and comprehensible explanation? A similar thing happens when people feel comfortable. Often we say too much in familiar contexts or company. For example, we've all had that experience when a brief chat with a colleague during a coffee break turns into a marathon when our co-worker details his weekend plans. Situations like this eat up your work time and make you think twice about showing interest. So feeling at ease can make us talk too much. Here's how confusion and complication do the same. Sometimes when people haven't organised their thoughts before speaking, they end up thinking out loud. I know I can be guilty of this. In this situation, even if your brain is working a mile a minute, the people around you will only receive blurred, indecipherable messages. This commonly occurs during brainstorming sessions. Your great ideas shouldn't go undeveloped because others can't follow your point. But what about ideas that are just intrinsically hard to follow? For instance, some people believe there are concepts so complex they can't be simplified. Say a client wants to know why his delivery can't be speeded up. You explain all the logistical details of the shipping schedule, and when you finish, the customer wants nothing to do with you. By explaining too much, you risk losing not just your client's patience, but also their trust. Therefore, brevity is key. So teach yourself to be brief with the following 4 techniques. A. Simplify your ideas by using brief mind maps to outline information. We all know how difficult it is to be on the receiving end of a conversation with those who over-explain, under-prepare, and unnecessarily complicate information. If you want to ensure that you never put another person into that uncomfortable position again, then come prepared with an outline, and you'll be amazed at how clear, organised, and detailed your presentations can be. Outlining presentations is easy using brief mind maps, visual outlines that organise information around a core topic. Here's how they work. Brief stands for background, reasons or relevance, information for inclusion, ending and expecting follow-up questions. Brief mind maps are diagrams that help you to express your ideas with brevity. The key to drawing one is taking your time. Begin with a brief box with a strong headline describing your central point. For instance, if you're updating a group on a project, your headline could be "The project is on budget." Then detail the last conversation you had with the person or group you're addressing. So in this example, you might say, "Last week we decided the anticipated costs were $10,000 and the timeline for completion was 30 days. Once everyone is updated, tell them why you're meeting now and why the information is relevant. Maybe plans changed and you need to invest further resources to stay on schedule. Now present the key information of your presentation. For instance, by investing an additional $2,000, we can complete the project 4 days early. And when concluding, summarise what you've presented and outline the next steps on the timeline. If we increase funding, we can finish the project ahead of schedule. And before your presentation, consider any potential audience questions and try to answer them. For example, can we expect any additional expenses? Are there any unforeseen risks? So the next time you're presenting information, just say it quickly, clearly, and get it done. B. Make your ideas pop with the power of pictures. You know the classic saying, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." When it comes to brevity, it's truer than ever. Clear and memorable visuals appeal to everyone and are a great tool to help people remember a message. Today's technology-centric world of screens and interactive media has taken the place of the text-based world of yesterday. In fact, studies have shown that people tend to recall about 80% of what they see. Now, to put that in context, people only remember about 30% of what we read and just 10% of what we hear. So, infographics, videos, graphs, charts, illustrations, and animations can communicate your message 6 times more effectively than using words alone. C. Corporate speak for an engaging story. Swap them over. Now that you know a few strategies to organise information and present it briefly, you're probably ready to try them out. But before getting on stage, you'll need one more critical technique, and that's storytelling. Because a well-structured narrative provides a direct line to your audience, which fosters instant clarity with a personal connection. Now, storytelling can be easy with a narrative map that keeps your story concise and brief. Just like mind maps, narrative maps are structured around a central point, this time a story. From the central idea, you then elaborate a setup or challenge, an opportunity, an approach, and a payoff. Just as with the brief map, begin by writing down the central point and then fill in each respective aspect, going clockwise from 12 o'clock. One of the greatest examples of narrative mapping is Steve Jobs' presentation of the first generation iPhone. Now, Steve's well-organised and highly strategic story explained that the current smartphones were neither smart nor user-friendly and conveyed the extraordinary impact the iPhone would have on its industry. In Jobs' narrative map, the challenge was the smartphones were not being intuitively smart enough. The opportunity arising from this challenge was to build a phone that was both smarter and easier to use than any other. The approach to building it was to design a user-friendly device that made calls while enabling users to surf the internet and listen to music. And finally, the payoff was the way Apple solved the problem by creating a game-changing product, the iPhone. By introducing his breakthrough product with a compelling narrative, Jobs launched iPhones onto the market. But it's easy to make mistakes while telling a story. Turning business stories into fairy tales is one of them. To avoid making this mistake when mapping your narrative, stay away from fables, myths, satire, and any other form which is something that you might understand but maybe other people won't. Instead, do what Jobs did and stick to a straightforward story that details why, how, who, when, where, and therefore what. D. Employ active listening to turn monologues into controlled and balanced conversations. Sometimes being brief can feel like a conversation killer, but actually the opposite is true. To convey your ideas with brevity is to have a meaningful, controlled conversation. In order for you to do this, you'll need to be disciplined and learn to talk about what's truly important to your conversation partner. You can learn what matters to others by employing active listening and asking thoughtful, intentional questions. The TALC or TALC method will show you how. TALC is an acronym standing for Talk, Active Listening, and Converse. And it's a technique for keeping conversations on track by putting your ideas in line with those of your partner to guide the conversation in interesting directions. So how does this work? Begin by letting the other person speak and express themselves, but be prepared to respond with a clear point when they're done. As the other person talks, be certain to listen carefully and show your interest. You can do this by avoiding multitasking and by listening for key words, names, dates, and other facts that will help you to choose an interesting way to respond. Active listening in this way is key to understanding your partner's mindset and values. Now, as you use this technique, stick to building up a single conversation. Instead of raising a new topic, try offering a comment or question that serves as a bridge from the topic your partner raises. Keep your responses brief and be mindful of when to stop speaking. Talking and conversing with brevity is all about understanding what your conversation partner cares about and appropriately responding to that. So being a good conversation partner means actively listening in order to genuinely respond, not just waiting for your chance to speak. Treat conversations like a game of tennis by reacting to the move your partner makes instead of like a game of golf where you wait for your turn. Okay, let's get back to our third and final point. Brevity signifies respect. Show people you care by thinking about their time. Being brief isn't just a tool for the office. It's essential to proper etiquette and good manners. In short, it's about respect. If you stay considerate of the precious time of others by being brief in meetings, presentations, and even on social media, it will make a big difference that people will appreciate. How? Now, Google's technique is to project a timer on the wall of their conference room that counts down the time left until the meetings end. This is a good way of keeping meetings quick by setting time limits and assigning moderators to enforce them. Now, this is backed up by the fact that the average CEO spends about 60% of their working hours in meetings, so brevity would work really well here. When it comes to presentations, try opening by asking why. This defines the issue at hand from the start and helps tackle the most pressing questions first, so don't save the best for last. You know how often you come to the really meaty bit of a meeting when you've got 2 minutes left? Grab your audience's attention from the beginning. And don't forget social media. Remember, the most effective posts are around 80 characters long, and visuals are 5 times more engaging than text alone. But that's not all. Being brief is also essential to effective small talk. It's easy to go on autopilot in casual context to say whatever pops into your head, but it's just as easy to lose other people's respect and damage your reputation by sharing too much. Briefly telling someone good news will highlight the success and pique their interest. For instance, simply telling your boss that your project is under budget is more impressive than explaining the details of every expense. And by sharing bad news quickly, you minimize the pain of hearing it. Being succinct means divulging only the most meaningful facts and avoiding negative comments. Remember, if you feel badly about something or frustrated with someone, it's perhaps better to say nothing at all at that point. Find another time to address it. So finally, the modern world is full of distractions. If you want to communicate effectively, you have to be brief. understanding the hidden factors that make us drag out explanations, practicing strategies for planning presentations, and learning the art of storytelling will transform your communication skills by giving them direction and meaning. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to watch more of my book summary reviews. Thanks again.